6 Scary True Road Trip Horror Story. Story 1. The Hitchhiker. In 2015, Rachel and her friends embarked on a cross-country road trip. One night, while driving through a desolate stretch of highway in Nevada, they spotted a hitchhiker. He looked desperate and waved them down. Reluctantly, they pulled over and offered him a ride. The man, disheveled and jittery, climbed into the back seat. He didn't say much, just mumbled about needing to get to the next town. As they drove, Rachel glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the man glaring at her with wild eyes. She tried to keep calm, but the tension was palpable. Suddenly, the man lunged forward, trying to grab the steering wheel. Rachel's friend in the passenger seat quickly subdued him, and they managed to pull over and force him out of the car. They sped away, heart racing, and reported the incident to the police. Later, they learned that the hitchhiker was wanted for several violent crimes in the area. The encounter left them shaken and wary of picking up strangers. Story 2. The Abandoned Motel. In 2016, Jack and his girlfriend Lily were on a road trip through the Midwest. Exhausted from driving all day, they decided to stop at a small, run-down motel off the highway. The motel was nearly empty, with only one car in the parking lot. The clerk, an eerie old man, handed them a key to their room without saying much. As they settled in, they noticed strange noises coming from the room next door. Whispers, shuffling, and an occasional thud. Jack decided to investigate, but when he knocked on the door, there was no answer. The noises continued, growing louder and more unsettling. Unable to sleep, they decided to leave. As they were packing up, the old man reappeared, staring at them with cold, empty eyes. They hurried to their car and drove off, feeling a sense of dread lifting as they put distance between themselves and the motel. Later, they found out that the motel had a dark history of disappearances and murders. They felt lucky to have escaped unscathed. Story 3. The Desert Encounter. In 2017, David and his friends planned a road trip through the American Southwest. One night, they camped in a remote desert area. As they sat around the campfire, they heard distant, rhythmic drumming. Thinking it was another group of campers, they decided to check it out. They followed the sound and stumbled upon a circle of rocks with strange symbols painted on them. In the center stood a tall, hooded figure chanting in an unknown language. The figure turned and looked directly at them, eyes glowing unnaturally in the firelight. Terrified, they ran back to their campsite and packed up hastily. As they drove away, the drumming grew louder, seemingly following them. They didn't stop until they reached the next town, where they shared their experience with the locals. An elder warned them that they had encountered a skinwalker, a shapeshifter from Native American folklore. The experience left them deeply unsettled and convinced them never to camp in remote areas again. Story: The Ghostly Gas Station. In 2018, Sarah and her friends were on a road trip to a music festival. Late one night, they stopped at an old, decrepit gas station in the middle of nowhere. The station looked abandoned, but the lights were on, and the pump seemed to work. As they filled up the tank, Sarah went inside to pay. The interior was dusty and filled with old, faded memorabilia. The cashier, an elderly woman, seemed out of place. Dressed in vintage clothing from decades past, she handed Sarah change, her cold, bony fingers brushing against Sarah's hand. When Sarah returned to the car, she felt a chill and noticed the gas station's lights flickering. They quickly drove off. The next day, They stopped at a diner and mentioned the gas station to the waitress. She looked shocked and told them that the station had burned down years ago, killing everyone inside. The group realized they had encountered the ghostly remnants of the tragic past, and it haunted them for the rest of the trip. Story 5. The Man in the Woods. In 2019, Michael and his friends decided to take a road trip through the Pacific Northwest. One evening, they parked their RV near a dense forest to spend the night. As they were sitting around the campfire, they heard rustling in the bushes. Thinking it was a wild animal, they ignored it. But the rustling continued and grew closer. Suddenly, a disheveled man emerged from the trees, staring at them with wide, unblinking eyes. He didn't say a word, just stood there, watching them. Feeling uneasy, they decided to retreat into the RV and lock the doors. The man circled the RV, tapping on the windows and trying the door handles. They called the police, who arrived shortly after and apprehended the man. The officers revealed that he was a fugitive, wanted for several violent crimes. The encounter left them shaken and grateful for their quick thinking. Story 6. The Wrong Turn. In 2020, Jenna and her boyfriend Tom were on a road trip along the East Coast. Late one night, they took a wrong turn and ended up on a narrow, winding road through a dense forest. The GPS lost signal, and they felt increasingly uneasy as they drove deeper into the woods. They came across a small, dilapidated cabin with a flickering light inside. Desperate for directions, they approached the cabin and knocked on the door. An old man answered, his appearance ragged and unsettling. He invited them in, but they felt something was off. As they turned to leave, they noticed several pairs of eyes watching them from the darkness surrounding the cabin. Terrified, they ran back to their car and sped away, hearing faint laughter behind them. They eventually found their way back to the main road and reported the incident to the police. Later, they learned that the area was known for strange disappearances and was rumored to be the hideout of a dangerous cult. The experience left them deeply disturbed and wary of taking unfamiliar routes in the future.